Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, call hello, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Dash. Of course, double honors go out to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who continue through the Holy Spirit, all right, to push out this truth, knowledge, and wisdom. And we therefore go out on the highways and byways to try to impart all these things to our people, at least to the ones that will listen, all right, but understanding also that it's Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah that will provide the increase. All right, we can just plant that little seed there. All right. This video, this is Nam at the DC camp, and in this video, I'm going to highlight how it's not a good thing when you emulate your oppressor to the point where you end up like these two, Colin Powell, who just passed away a few days ago, and this thing here, Condosleeza rice. All right. Yes, I said it that way on purpose. You did not imagine. All right. These are people that sought to please our oppressor, the nation of Edom, as known in the Bible, who refer to themselves as white people. They're not, they're red. But this comes from blackagendareport.com, and it says the many crimes of Colin Powell. As I said from the onset, this is going to highlight the dangers of trying to emulate and fit in no matter what. All right, to suppress your feelings, your hurt, your conscience to the point where you just don't give a damn anymore. You just want to exceed and be like your oppressor. Colin Powell's death is an opportunity to question the inclination to respect the black face in a high place. Powell's career includes a litany of crimes that must never be excused. But we already had two first. Colin Powell was one of them, and Condosleeza Rice, his successor as Secretary of State. How did that redound to the benefit of black people for the United States to have put a black face on imperialism, on aggressive war, on violations of international law? How does that make black people look better in the world? Is that the kind of burden that black people want to carry around? See, and up to a certain point, the rest of the world, all right, knew and still know, by and large, that, hey, we are victims. It's just the truth. No matter what your oppressor is trying to shove down your throat, nah, you're not being oppressed. You can do anything you want to do. And again, as a bad example, you have, as they would point to, individuals like Powell and Rice, who have more or less given their soul for massa. And thereby they have become pseudo-Edomites. Let's look into that word, pseudo. All right, as soon as it comes up here. All right, pseudo. Or honorary could be, another. That might even be more accurate. But pseudo is derogatory. As an adjective, it means not genuine, spurious, or a sham. Noun, a pretentious or insincere person. You will never be one of them. You can never be. They let you know in so many other ways, yet our people are so quick to accept even the one that are causing us the most harm. Isn't that some fucked up shit? This is pseudo from Merriam-Webster's as being apparently rather than actually as stated. A distinction between true and pseudo-humanism. Synonyms: affected, artificial, assumed, bogus, contrived, factitious, fake, false, feigned, forced, mechanical, mock, phony. Again, we will never be them. So why, oh why, must we pretend? All right. So we're gonna go right to it. Let's go to. As soon as it loads, so I thought I already had it. This is Proverbs 3:31. It says, "Envy thou not the oppressor." Who is our oppressor? The nation of Edom. All right, and choose none of his ways. Let's go into that envy there. And that Strong's H7065, Quana'a. To be jealous of, to be envious of. And a lot of our people, oh man, they get a lot of our people through social media. It's fucked up. But this is how they cast their spells. Alright? And our people are under, make no mistake, our people are, there's some heavy witchcraft going on here. Alright? And you got to go to the Christian church. That false doctrine that's responsible for a number of the narratives that are being pushed on our people. Sweet Jeebus and all that mess. The sad thing is, our people, a lot of them will never, they'll go to their graves not realizing that they are the people that the scriptures were talking about. The true Israelites. The damage that has been done, all right, mentally to our people. Just by that alone. And they're trying to continue that. But now that a lot of, well, it's not a lot, but quite a few of our people have woken up to who they really are and the bullshit games that have been played and continue to be played. Just like when you catch a thief or any other kind of crook, you understand why now things are happening, such as COVID and all this other shit. All right, trying to force you to put something in your body that does not belong, and you realize now, hopefully before you got the damn thing, that it's a crock. Clearly something else is going on here. They want you to get that shot so bad. Now they're threatening on holding back the food. There's this break in the chain, if you will. All those ships off the coast, now they want to blame the crane operators when that's not it at all. All right. So here we're going to have a manufactured famine because you got a whole lot of people in the public safety, you know, your police, your firemen, etc., your medical. They're like, fuck it. And that should set off all kinds of bells and whistles and all kinds of red flags if you, of any sort of reasonable intelligence, say, wait a minute. If doctors and nurses, people that are around this, people that are in the medical field are saying, fuck this shit, well, maybe you should start to think, what the hell is going on here? But a lot of you, you know, you've got your head so far up this white man's ass, there's just no hope for you. But let's go back to the article. Anyway, so this clown here, I remember when I was in the service, and you hear things from people that served along during his time, how he was always about doing what the so-called white man wanted, and even when issues of racial tension and uh, the unfair treatment that his own people were getting, he just ignored it and wrote something else in a report. And it's something similar here. We all know that he served under George W. S. I'm going to be skipping down for time's sake. Uh, it says, Colin Powell certainly had a storied career. It wound through various Republican presidential administrations from Reagan, George H.W. Bush to George W. Bush. He served as National Security Advisor, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Secretary of State. All right. He said about his life and work, all I want to do is judge myself as a successful soldier who served his best. His desire to justify himself shouldn't oblige anyone else to go along. This question must be answered in assessing Powell's career. What makes a soldier successful? This point is especially important when talking about a man who took part in every foreign policy action, from Vietnam to Iran-Contra to Panama to Iraq to Haiti. Simply put, a good soldier follows orders, makes operations run smoothly, and here's the point with Powell, to his shame really, and makes his bosses look good. Powell did all of those things, and that is why his legacy is so dubious. When Major Powell was stationed in Vietnam in '68, he and his superiors received a letter written by a soldier whose tour of duty was ending. Tom Glenn stated that U.S. soldiers were carrying out atrocities against civilians. Major Powell was tasked with investigating, which should have included an interview of the soldier himself. Neither he nor anyone else spoke to Glenn, and when Powell responded, he blamed the whistleblower for not reporting the crimes to people who had chosen to do nothing about them. He then wrote a classic yes man response, which concluded, in direct refutation of his portrayal is the fact that relations between American soldiers and the Vietnamese are excellent. And then another soldier became after that, and this had to do with the My Lai massacre. It says the U.S. massacre of an estimated 500 civilians in the My Lai, in the village of My Lai. Ridenour, his name was Ronald Ridenour, conducted his own investigation and sent his letter off to federal officials, including President Nixon. Boy, did he fuck up. He said on this occasion, Powell got a surprise visit from the Inspector General's office and was asked about combat activity around the date in question. Good soldier Powell reported only what was in the falsified record, and thus played a role in an attempt to cover up which fortunately proved to be futile. And it goes into his own crimes, and he wrote in his memoir, My American Journey. He says, we burned down the thatched hut, starting the blaze with Ronson and Zippo lighters. Why were we torching houses and destroying crops? Ho Chi Minh had said the people were like the sea in his guerrilla swamp. Our problem was to distinguish friendly, or at least neutral fish from the VC swimming alongside. And see, the fucked up part about this, when you go into the history, there's a history. See, the Americans only got involved after the French got their ass kicked. The French invaded in 1954, got their asses kicked. And of course, well, because of colonialism, and they all worked together, the French, the British, the Americans, oh no, we can't have nothing to do with it. We can't let this go. What? They all stick together, in other words. You remember what happened to Haiti as a result of what, they kicked the motherfucking French ass, all right? And they had to pay them back because they drove the colonizers out of their land. And yet they were forced to pay their former slave masters because the slave masters lost money. I kid you not. And I think they had to pay up until around the middle of the 20th century, somewhere around there. That's ain't that some bullshit? That's one of the reasons why Haiti is so poor to this day, because they're constantly, but of course, that's the curses. This is proof of who they are. All right. Uh, it says, in the hard logic of war, what difference did it make if you shot your enemy or starved him to death? All right. And these things are war crimes. All right. It says if Powell would run interference for Army brass in Vietnam, he would do no less for his boss, President George W. Bush. In early 2001, Powell said of Iraqi President Saddam Hussein, and this is important. Remember, this is early 2001. Talking about Saddam Hussein, he has not developed any significant capability with respect to weapons of mass destruction. He is unable to project conventional power against his neighbors, let alone the U.S. We're talking about his neighbors in his vicinity, in his area. 2 years later, Powell made a great show at the United Nations, I'm sure which everybody has seen by now, saying just the opposite. Bush decided to invade Iraq, and good soldier Powell was tasked with making the public case for a war of aggression. We know now because several officials from that era had come out and said it was about oil. Why? Because Saddam Hussein wanted to trade in something other than U.S. dollars, because he realized what the hell was going on. Same thing with Gaddafi. Those who remembered his assurances that Hussein posed no threat were few in number, and the corporate media were ready to help the Bush administration get support for the invasion, skipping down. Of course, his boss wasn't finished with his criminality, and Haiti was next in the crosshairs. The U.S. wanted President Jean-Bertrand Aristide out, kidnapped him at gunpoint, and took him to the Central African Republic in March of 2004. Members of the Congressional Black Caucus, the CBC, such as Maxine Waters and Charles Rangel, must be credited with speaking up. When Powell claimed that Aristide wanted to be taken out of his country because he feared for his life, Rangel called him a liar, saying, "This information about Aristide asking to leave the country or that his life was in danger was never shared with us." These CBC members and everyone else who protested were marginalized, and the moderate Powell won the day without a peep from the rest of Congress or the corporate media, because everyone was in on it except for Aunt Esther and Charlie Rangel. All right? It says Powell was the ultimate careerist. Like I said from the onset, these are people, him and Rice, these are the ones that put aside everything, all their personal feelings and everything, just so they can rub elbows with their oppressor. Sellouts of the highest order. Anyway, although in the end he was hoisted on his own petard, all right, Bush informed him his services were no longer needed just days after the 2004 election. Powell committed crimes on Bush's behalf and then was unceremoniously let go. Good. The dirty work had been done. Bush was safely in office again, and the man who was falsely marketed as a moderating force no longer served a purpose. He retired to a nice life, making lots of money, giving speeches, and sitting on corporate boards. You can read the rest of this if you want. All right, he ushered in really. I don't know if it was planned, try to get someone used to a Jake on that level, but he's responsible, they say, for paving the way for Barack Obama. We all know these people are set up. All right, so whatever. So let's go to this thing over here. Condosleeza Rice. She was on The View earlier this week, and she was dragged through the mud, and rightfully so. It says, during a discussion about how much influence parents should have in their children's education, all right, director of the Hoover Institution at Stanford University and former Secretary of State Condosleeza Rice stirred up a rousing conversation surrounding critical race theory being taught in schools as she guest co-hosted a daytime talk show. Skipping down, it says, before the former Secretary of State gave her point of view on the debate surrounding critical race theory, and it's not theory, it's fact, she explained her background and upbringing in the South during segregation. My parents never thought I was going to grow up in a world without prejudice, but they also told me that's somebody else's problem, not yours. See, these people decided not to live in the real world. There's things you can do to try to protect yourself emotionally, all right? But you got to remember, we were over here for punishment. We were never supposed to be making this our paradise, our rest, as Micah 2:10 says. All right? This was not meant for us. Let's go to Baruch real quick, because some of our people just don't believe that we're still in slavery. They think because of the civil rights era BS that, oh, it's over, we can do it. No, 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 no. Let's go to Baruch 4:6. All right. It says, ye were sold. Well, actually, I'll go to the chapter before, 3:8. It says, behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us, talking about the Most High. Remember, we are under the curses. We are being punished for disobedience. Where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, Deuteronomy 28th chapter. And to be subject to payments, taxes, or tributes, which indicate what? You're under subjection to somebody else. According to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord, our power. All right, now let's go to 4 and 6. Ye were sold to the nations, not for your destruction, but because you moved the Most High Yahweh to wrath. Ye were delivered unto the enemies. For ye provoked him that made you by sacrificing unto devils. Idolatry is a big thing. Big no-no. But it was a big thing with Israel. You can read Book of Judges in itself, that one book. It says, for ye provoked him that made you by sacrificing unto devils and not to the Most High Yahweh. Ye have forgotten the everlasting power that brought you up, and ye have grieved Jerusalem that nursed you. For when she saw the wrath of the Most High coming unto you, she said, hearken, O ye that dwell about Zion, the Most High hath brought upon me great mourning. All right? And we are still in it. Our people don't get it. They want so much to try to make this hell home that, like these two that are featured here, they're willing to just say, fuck it. I'm going to make it no matter what. No. These are examples of what you don't want to be. And people in that same mindset. These are just two of the more prominent ones. You got Clarence Thomas, that motherfucker. Larry Elder, that's another one. Just tried to, he ran, what was it, on, what did they call that? Trying to get Governor Newsom out of office. What is that called? Recall. Over the summer. All right. Wow. And that other thing, what's that woman, what is her name? Candace Owens. That bed wench. All right. Now she's here trying to make a case about trying not to make so-called white kids feel bad because of their past. Well, haven't they done that always with us? And this highlights another fact that we're trying to tell our people what the hell is going on, but they don't want to listen. This is Jeremiah. You're going to come out of your mouth. Let me just read it. This is Jeremiah 15:5. It says, for who shall have pity upon thee, O Jerusalem? Jerusalem is a people. That's us before a place. All right? Because they're in our land now. All right? We were cast out of there because of what? We didn't want to do the right thing. All right? Or who shall bemoan thee, or who shall go aside to ask how thou doest? Nobody gives a damn about our emotional state, but yet you got two of your own, especially this one. Let me just read this. Condosleeza then turned to the way race is taught and discussed in schools, and she said that she felt that it was possible to lift up so-called black students without disparaging white ones. One of the worries that I have about the way we're talking about race is that it either seems so big that somehow white people have to be made to feel guilty for everything that happened to. Well, shouldn't they? I don't think that's very productive. See, or black people have to feel disempowered by race. I would like black kids to be completely empowered, to know that they're beautiful in their blackness. We're not black. There's no black man walking the face of this earth, however dark brown he is, and there's no white person walking around here. It says, but in order to do that, I don't have to make white kids feel bad for being white. No, you're telling the truth. Fuck their feelings. See, this is another bedwench. They want to do everything. Let's get some of the comments and I'm going to end it. This is Ty. I see Condosleeza Rice is throwing around Republican false narratives. Critical race theory is not taught in K through 12. Teaching real history does not make white kids feel bad. If black kids, Spanish kids, and Asian kids can experience racism at an early age, then white kids can learn about it. Rory Wallace. So let me get this straight. Black kids already feel bad knowing that this country enslaved their ancestors and treat them as less than. But Condosleeza Rice is worried about how white kids feel when teaching racial history. Wow. Did not expect Condosleeza Rice on The View to be a supporter of white fragility. Let me see this. Like, this shit, man. These are the people, these two, well, one now, that they uphold, they regard in high esteem. These sellouts. All right. Condosleeza can go back to living off the radar in California. I was looking forward to hearing from her, but she is still the same from 20 years ago. She doesn't want critical race theory because she is more concerned about white people's feelings. And you had some on the other side of this, some fucking other sellouts. All right. They go Whoopi Goldberg chiming in. Sonny Hostin mentioned that she felt there had been a rollback of history and people wanting to hide certain aspects of it. And she's right. Condosleeza reiterated that she didn't feel history should be taught in such a way that children should be made to feel responsible for things that happened in the past. And yet, anytime you go walk into a store, as a person such as myself, you're made to feel bad because of something that happened in the past that you had nothing to do with. Look at this piece of shit. These are the people you're taught to want to emulate when you go to these universities. These are the motherfuckers held up. You should be like this. You can make that money, have yourself a good career. But you done lost everything else, including your soul. And we all know the scripture on that one. What does it profit anyone? All right? What does it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his soul? Absolutely nothing. And this is not our rest. All the time you're helping your enemy to destroy your own people. All because you don't even want them to see the truth about what they've done. Because you're so concerned about their mental state. White fragility. Fuck this bitch. Hey, with that, hey, shalom, shalom, shalom.